Welcome, everybody. Today we're diving into the fascinating topic of rejection sensitivity. Specifically, how some folks experience what's known as rejection-sensitive dysphoria in relationships.
I'm really eager to get into this. Yeah, especially since it touches on something many of us might have felt at one point or another.
Absolutely. We all have those moments when rejection stings, but for some folks, it's not just the usual sting. It's like a full-on emotional, heart-racing storm, where even a small hint of rejection can trigger overwhelming feelings. It's a bit like being swept off your feet, in a not-so-fun way.
Right. It's interesting how what might be a brief disappointment for one person can turn into days of turmoil for another. What really sets this apart?
So, think of it like this. In a typical scenario, say between two partners, imagine Jamie and Taylor. Taylor might suggest setting aside time to reconnect after a tough day. For most, it might feel a little melancholic, but you get over it. But for someone like Jamie, who might have RSD, that suggestion leads to intense feelings. Rapid heartbeats, overwhelming shame, and thoughts like, I'm unlovable, or I'm a terrible partner.
Yep.
And this can really spiral into conflict.
Exactly. That escalation sounds so disruptive. It's almost like the brain hits a panic button, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When you're dealing with RSD, the emotional reaction is disproportionate. It's not just a fleeting sadness. It's an overwhelming wave that can last for days, affecting everything from daily productivity to self-esteem.
The way you described it, it really makes you wonder how we differentiate normal sensitivity from something like RSD.
Right. Normal rejection sensitivity might leave you a bit blue for a bit, but you bounce back. With RSD, because of its intensity and persistence, even minor cues can be magnified into feelings of deep inadequacy. It's almost like the brain
that totally
rewires
makes
the
sense.
experience.
And it's kind of fascinating how research has linked this particularly to adults with ADHD or autism spectrum disorder, isn't it?
Right on. Researchers, including Dr. William Dodson, introduced the term to capture these extra intense feelings of rejection, and studies have indeed noted that people with ADHD or ASD may have differences in emotional regulation and even brain structure that make them more prone to this kind of dysphoria. It's a blend of biology and experience.
So, in relationships, it's not just about feeling a bit hurt. A lot of times, this can spiral into a negative self-perception, right? Like constantly feeling unworthy.
Exactly. Someone with RSD might often see themselves through a lens of shame and low self-worth. Unlike regular sensitivity, where a little rejection is a temporary blip, with RSD, that negative self-image sticks around. And it impacts daily life. Sometimes even work and social interactions get affected.
That makes a lot of sense. This constant, vigilant lookout for signs of rejection, even when they might not be present, can be mentally exhausting.
Yes, and what's key is how couples manage these dynamics. Let's consider Jamie and Taylor again. If Jamie, living with RSD, feels overwhelmed by a suggestion to talk, the cycle of hurt can spiral into heated disagreements or long silences. It's a real challenge in maintaining a healthy connection.
It's almost like their communication becomes locked in a defensive loop. I mean, one moment you're trying to connect, and the next, you're both in a state of pure emotional hijack.
Exactly. And that's why the Gottman approach really emphasizes communication strategies. Instead of immediately reacting, partners can use techniques like a softened startup, where conflicts are addressed gently. For instance, saying, I feel worried when relationship issues come up right after a busy day, can ease tension rather than trigger defensive responses.
But wouldn't it be possible for someone to argue that this approach might dilute the authenticity of the emotions being expressed? Like, isn't it important to let raw feelings come out?
That's a fair point, and I appreciate that critique. However, it's not about suppressing emotions. It's more about framing them in a way that invites understanding rather than conflict. It's, like redirecting a powerful river into a channel where it can flow safely, so the emotion is still felt, but in a manageable form.
Yeah, I can see that. It's about channeling that raw power into something constructive, rather than letting it wreak havoc.
Precisely. And another tactic is creating a timeout system when emotions start to flood in. A quick pause to breathe, count to 15, and then re-engage.
Yep.
This approach helps both partners reflect instead of react impulsively.
Which reminds me, the research mentioned that diffusion of physiological arousal helps to de-escalate the situation. It's really practical advice for daily life.
Exactly. When you can recognize the signs of emotional flooding early on, you can calmly use a repair phrase like, "Can we take a step back? I really want to understand you." That small phrase can be the key to diffusing a potential blow-up, and it helps in building a positive emotional bank account between partners.
And speaking of positive emotional bank accounts, it's interesting how cultivating things like fondness and playful admiration can actually buffer the negative effects of RSD, isn't it?
Absolutely. Expressing genuine gratitude regularly, saying things like, "Thank you for being here," reinforces trust and connection. It's like creating a reservoir of positive feelings that makes those tough moments a bit easier to handle.
And, these strategies aren't just for personal well-being. They also protect the relationship as a whole. It's like having a built-in safety net.
Exactly. When both partners are in tune with their own emotional triggers and can communicate them honestly, it makes the relationship more resilient. Even if one partner is more sensitive, using these tools can help maintain balance.
Right, yeah.
It's a team effort.
Sometimes I wonder, though, how do we strike the balance between acknowledging these sensitive responses and not letting them take over every small disagreement?
That's a tough one. It's really about self-awareness and recognizing that while your feelings are valid, they don't always have to dictate your reaction. Continual reflection and sometimes reaching out for professional support like therapy can really help. It's a layered process.
It makes me think of how some couples even explore structured programs, like the Gottman Relationship Advisor or Relationship Coach programs, to build these skills.
Yeah, those resources are grounded in solid research and offer practical guidance. They're designed to help couples understand their own triggers, build patience, and develop techniques that nurture connection rather than fracture it. They're almost like a toolkit for modern relationships.
And, it's valuable because it frames these challenges not as insurmountable weaknesses, but as aspects of our humanity that can be managed with the right tools.
Right. And let's not forget that this conversation also touches on the importance of understanding oneself. Recognizing if you tend to perceive rejection even when it isn't really there can be the first step toward change. Awareness is powerful.
It's intriguing how the research isn't just about identifying the problem, but also about offering concrete paths to improvement, communication techniques, fostering positive interactions, even simple timeouts.
Absolutely. And these strategies not only help in reducing immediate conflict, but also contribute to long-term emotional well-being. They reinforce a stable, sound relationship house. It's like building a foundation brick by brick.
Looking ahead, do you think future research might uncover even more targeted interventions for those with RSD?
I do. With ongoing studies into emotional regulation in ADHD, ASD, and beyond, we're likely to see more personalized therapies emerge. It's an exciting frontier, developing strategies that are as unique as the individuals experiencing these intense emotions. It's an evolving landscape.
As much as we talk about techniques, sometimes the simple act of having an open conversation with one's partner makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Whether it's through structured communication strategies or just setting aside time to honestly express feelings, the key really is understanding and empathy.
Exactly.
And that can transform conflict into growth.
For sure. It's been really enlightening discussing these insights. There's so much depth in understanding why some reactions to rejection can feel so overwhelming and how we can manage them better. Thanks for this engaging conversation.